Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. Today is the 15th day of January 2021, and I've entitled my talk today is the economy. And as it was back in the 1990s, it was the economy, stupid. Well, yes, we are dealing with what I call a lot of issues with the economy. And the red flags are here, and you need to be aware of them. So let me share something with you as I go into this. And this is going to be a kind of a video that will share about what I call how he can gradually get ourselves out of this mess, not the country, but ourselves. So let me share a screen with you here. This is the screen that John Williams does, and I would recommend you go to his site here. This guy is looks behind what's going on because the government's not telling you the truth about anything here, folks. They're just not. They're not even telling you anything. They're giving you a rosy picture of something bad, but they're not really actually solving the problem, because what's happened with the economy is that we are at the bottom. It's what they call an L shape, and that means simply L shape simply means that there's no U shape. And that was what they were predicting probably 6 months ago, that this would be something short and it would be dealt with, that it would be a U shape, it would be a plunge. And then what happened would be the upward bound going back up to get the economy going and with people being back employed. That's not taking place. What's taking place is many things are taking place. People are unemployed. I'm guessing probably 40 million people are unemployed in this country, if not more. Just think about that, 40 million people. It may be even higher than that. And if people are in jobs or have jobs, they're basically $8 or $10 an hour, $12 an hour jobs that basically are $15 a job hour, that are basically they're not getting ahead. Many people are working either 2 jobs or 3 jobs just to get by. And inflation is reared its head, and it will continue to rear its head as things continue to get progressively worse. I believe that we're on the fringe of what I call the economic destruction of the country, similar to what took place before Hitler came to power in the 1930s. And if you recall, if anybody does recall the days of the Depression, even here in the United States, it wasn't an inflationary situation. It was the opposite. It was actually people didn't have work, and yet people would sell apples on the street corners for a nickel, just trying to have something to eat or be able to pay the necessities. Now, the situation here in America is far worse because just about everybody's in debt. And when you're in debt, you're basically the slave to the borrower. And when you're a slave to the borrower, you really need to get out of debt if you can. I have talked about this in the past with friends, urging them to get out of the debt. And most say, no, we're not, things are fine. So that's their choice. That's their choice. So this is happening now, inflationary period. Approximately only 10% of the country itself is actually manufacturing anymore, which is a red flag. That's completely different than what it was in the 80s and 90s, especially the early 90s. And then now what's happening. So the dollar is losing value. That's what they want. And what I mean by that, they're actually pumping more dollars into the economy. So what that means simply is the dollars are becoming worth less each day because there are more dollars being put out there because there's nothing behind it. There's no silver, there's no gold, nothing of that nature behind any of this. And all countries are like this. It's what they call fiat currency. And almost all the West, in fact, all the West is involved in a fiat currency, which means there's no support for the dollar or their peso or whatever they use that is actually behind it. And also the issue with the petrodollar here in America is no more too. So what's happening is what's kept the dollar somewhat stable for the last 40 years is no more. And so the United States is on its way down. There's no doubt about it. And you need to be getting prepared for what I call necessities. You need to have food. You need to have water. You need to be able to live on much smaller part of your check in order to do this. But there is hope. There is hope out there. And I was talking to a lady last night from Australia, and my hope is this: is that this is part of the thinking that we need to deal with what I call our traumas, and part of this is to deal with what I call the story about Anastasia. That is a story written by a Russian author many years ago, speaking about simply as people eventually go into what they call the cedar rings to do with living as a community, that is living working together for having sustainability, that is to have food and water and everyone be there. The young would take care of the older ones, that type of thing. But in order to get there, and we found out as we were sharing last night, is that most of those groups are crumbling because people can't get along. So people cannot get along at all. And so these groups are coming apart. And with that, meaning it simply is that, let's see if I can get back to my stream here. Let's see. That what's taking place simply is that people are not getting along because they have traumas in their life. So they're not dealing with that. People are, this is a process that's taking place that for some of us, it's time for us to grow up. It's time for us to ascend, to be better people, to see where our issues of insecurities are, where our deals with why we get upset with people when someone says something to us. We're far more touchy on this than I think than ever before in our lives, because we've been dealt wrongly by our parents mainly, and as children we didn't know how to respond to that, and so we covered it up. We pretend it didn't happen, so we covered it up. And all of us have been done this way, one way or the other. Some have dealt with it easier because they had a little bit better parents, but they still struggle. That is just who they are. That is, even with myself, my parents, my mom and dad. My mom was the one who showed love, and my father never really showed much love at all, never shared his feelings in some ways. And so as for me, I graduated towards my mom. I tend to be closer to her than I actually was with my dad. My dad was not in touch. He felt simply as being a good father and a good dad or a good husband somewhat, that he was putting food on the table. That is, he had a job, he was producing, and he was providing for the family. Well, that's nice, but that doesn't work. It doesn't work for the children, and it doesn't work for the family, and it doesn't work for the wife. You see, so he saw it nothing as a physical deal. I'm providing for my family because I'm working and I'm providing food and I'm paying for the rent or paying for the mortgage or I'm paying doing all these things and I should be congratulated. And I didn't have a really bad family compared to some other people. Yes, I grew up in a Christian home and their thinking, their belief system, that is to believing that there's a savior out there. Has anyone met Jesus personally? I mean, really, have you met him? Because I haven't met him. So it's a story. It's a good story. It's an unbelievable story because the story is unbelievable because it is unbelievable. It's not true. And so some of us have seen this and realized this in the last 4 or 5 years or longer periods. Some have not dealt with. I mean, have dealt with it. As I was talking with this lady from Australia, she recognized it very early, within 2 to 3 years old, knowing that Christianity was not true, not even close to being true. So how do we deal with these traumas? Well, I think we can deal with these traumas by something that I did yesterday, and being real with ourselves. And that was the reason why I shared some of the videos I shared on Facebook, was to go out in nature. I mean, go out, not just walking out there and, just being there, but actually experiencing it. That is laying on the ground and enjoying the peace. I think that what's so is key with the nature is simply is that it's giving. It helps those who struggle with depression. It helps those to struggle with whatever their anxiety is. The woods are by far one of the best places to go to deal with this issue, because it's a balance deal. It helps you to be balanced in who you are and realizing what's important and what's not important. So I spent some time there, enjoying that and enjoying the birds singing. We take these things for granted. We actually take these things. Oh, that's what a bird sounds like, and we've done that way since we were when we were children. Oh, Bobby, this is a cardinal because he's red. You see, or here, Bobby, this is a wren over here. This is your sounds, but not actually being present at that moment. You see, just being told what it's called. It's a form of education in a way to actually to eliminate the senses of the child. Here, let me give you the right answer. Do you remember that? That's what many of us wanted in high school and college. Just give me the right answer and I'll memorize it. And that's what it is. That's what we've grown up into. Just give me the right answer, and that's all I need to know. I don't need to know anything else. I don't want to deal with my senses because you already burned that out of me when I was a young child. You embarrassed me as a child or either in kindergarten. That is the teachers. Teachers don't even know what they're doing to the children there. It's not just a brainwashing. It's the destruction of the individuality of the child. And so going back to these being in the woods simply is it brings about peace. It brings about what I call simply just being there, being in the moment, being there. And I encourage you all to get out of the cities and do everything, or go in your backyard and just simply spending time on the grass, um, being near the trees, hearing the birds and squirrels. Um, you know that these animals have a way of actually communicating to us. That this gentleman I've been listening to, Jonathan Adam Pants. I'm sorry, I was going to say Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Adam Pants is shared, and I've shared this on Facebook. Is that he actually goes into woods and he has wild animals come up to him. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? What type of spirit is that? I've shared a story also that by a gentleman named Lindsey Williams, who was actually in Alaska back in the 70s when they were building the oil pipeline. You know that the deer and moose and other animals came up to the human beings at first. They've never seen a human before. They were already trusting, you see. They were trusting human beings at that point because they never experienced a human being before in that time period. And what took place is the story of mankind. When they came back, you know, there's such and such, the gentleman who was working there. This is how stupid man is. Not stupid, insane. They kill the animals. They have food themselves, but yet it's a sport to them again. So let's go back 150 years ago and what took place on the plains with the buffalo. The same thing took place in Alaska in some ways. And that's why animals don't come up to you, because you are insane. You are. You just don't know it. You're divided. Your energy you put out, the animals pick up on that. And most of you won't even consider that, because simply as you've gotten someone's told you something else, and like we're the same ones. No. We're all insane here if we're divided, and all of us are divided right now, folks. Only a few are not. You see? And so unless we deal with that and get to deal with what I call the issues of what's happened in our past, we can't live in the presence. And so the key is simply is we want to live in the present in order to deal with the past. You see? You see, you got to be present. You got to be present in the moment. So there's going to have to be a radical change in our way of doing this, and we need to be. That's why we're at home, folks. That's part of this whole thing that's going on with the economy. It is, in some ways, if you cannot go anywhere, go into your backyard. Be in the backyard. Do not spend time watching television all the time, hearing all the bad news, because that's what they, in some ways, want to get you in a negative thinking. And you being in the outside, being in the backyard, you are actually in the moment. You're there in the moment. You're present. That's the part of the present. That means present means the gift of being present in that moment. No, I don't have all the answers. I'm not claiming that. But as I was talking with her, such and such, we were talking about this whole thing. And part of this simply is going back to the land and actually growing your own food. Being a commune, as I would call it, or like the hippies were in some ways. Except the problem is nowadays, simply we got more issues with, we can't deal with anybody telling us what to do. So we have an attitude problem. We don't get along with people. We don't know how to communicate. And we're fearful. in so many areas of our lives. So I encourage you to do this. Is something that's very important to be in nature. And if you're able, yesterday I experienced what I call a miracle. That woods that I went into yesterday, normally there's no birds singing. Normally there's no cat calls or bird calls or anything in the woods. I walked out there before, folks. So what happened yesterday differently? I think it's simply as I just said, a different. I just come here to be in peace. I didn't come out here just to walk and exercise. That wasn't my plan. My plan was simply is to be in nature and commune with it and be and listen as Adam shared. Listen to all the sounds around you. Be quiet and just listen. And yesterday, a miracle happened because there were abundance of birds that started calling and singing and whatever, and I was amazed. And I think it has a lot to do with having a proper attitude and going out there. I'm coming here to get myself healed. I'm not coming out here to exercise as I've always done. It's okay, I'll go out there and exercise such and such and look at the pretty stream and the creek and that type of thing. And, maybe I'll see a deer or something of that nature or whatever. Maybe not. No, it's just my attitude simply. So I come here to commune with nature because I know that nature can heal me. That was my attitude when I went out there. It doesn't cost you anything except time. You don't have to go to the doctor. This is something else this is something we need to understand. It should be this way. Listen, why should I spend money in someone, a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever you want to call them, trying to help me when reality simply is they're not helping me. They're making it more detrimental to me because they keep recalling what I did wrong. They don't have any answers. And so you're putting money out over and over and you're not seeing any benefits. So this is key because in reality, this is nature. This is the creator. In other words, there's not a stipulation that simply is you have to pay money. You just come out and want to be healed. So there's the idea simply is that you are not what I would call having to pay something out because most of us are in financial. Most of us don't have a ton of money just growing off the trees, you see, and it's free. And yesterday I had a chance to do that for probably 45 minutes to an hour. And the only time that it changed was when two people came out there. I heard them talk, and you know what happened? The birds stopped singing. That's the truth. When someone else came out there, they stopped singing, not drinking, singing. And so guess what? They picked on the energy of the people who were coming out there, and they stopped singing. That's what Adam Pants talks about. And so this whole thing is going to fall, has to, because this allows the opportunity for us who want to dream and see a new world to enter the age of Aquarius, you see. So the stipulation simply is this: do you want to heal yourself? Do you want to heal yourself? Or you want to continue to blame others and project upon others? Because you're doing that, you're not healing yourself. So this is just something simple. Again, we need to get we know we need to get back to the land. We know that. And the age of what we're in right now, Pisces age, is dying. That's why all this is happening. The age of what I call the sea, the water god, Pisces, baptism, all these are what I would call hints of the age that we live in. The law of commerce is dying. And it's going to go back. Simply is that you're going to have to take care of yourself. And those that don't are not going to be around. You see? And so it's important that you take this time, because you're out of work, some of you are, to go outside and spend time out there. Yes, I'm well aware it's winter. I'm well aware of that. But when there's a good sunny day, go out and spend time in nature. It does help. And not to get caught up in all the statistics. I could tell you all kinds of statistics. And do what's right. Be honest with yourself and say, I've got a problem. Because we all have problems. Our parents had problems. They lived in fear. They tried to handle it the best way they could handle it. And they projected upon us and hurt us, not knowing what they were doing. And then some of us, as we are older, like I'm 60 years old, and if we have kids or have a wife, then we project upon them and we hurt them. Doesn't solve the problem, does it? It's just you just continue. We just keep doing the same old thing. We're not learning. You see, we're not growing up. We think we are. We think we're actually more mature now than we ever have been. No. I think we're in a lot of ways worse. I mean, when you read the stories about, it's just that's why we're insane, because daddies do all kinds of things to their daughters at very young ages. Tell me what that is. It's not only just wrong, it's sick. Impregnating their daughters. That's sick. And the wife who has a husband that does that, she's fearful of saying anything because she knows it's wrong, but she's afraid she doesn't have a way to live on her own, you see. And so it's a trap. So the woman can't say anything because guess what? She'll be thrown out of the house or something else. I want nothing to do with you anymore. So this is a deal with what we call fear upon all. This has got to stop. Jonathan also has talked about a story here, and I think I've shared a little bit with some people, is that I would assume probably in his 20s, he talked about something that he wanted to get off. He wanted to get laid. He was not, he thought he liked this woman, supposedly thought he liked her, and had sex with her. And as he was left, he come to the realization, he was driving home, what I understand, he come to the realization that he was far more lonelier then than he was before he actually got laid. You see, if you don't do the right thing, folks, it has a negative repercussion upon you. And that's what happened. He come to the realization that he was more lonely now after, because he didn't do it out of love. He was not out of love. He was all for himself. He chose to use the woman for himself. He chose to use her. Now, I wonder what the feelings are of the woman got laid with. What were her feelings? He doesn't go into that at all, but he does share his feelings. Simply is that once he left, simply is he was more lonely than he was before, and that's what they're doing today. They're pushing the whole issue of sex all the time. I mean, I'm thinking about this. Okay, I'm in school in the seventh grade. I really like this girl. I like her a lot. Okay, I'm on the basketball team. She's a cheerleader, and she's cute. And what am I interested in? Getting laid? No. All I wanted to do was to hold her hand. That was all. I never really even got a chance to hold her hand, but I just the point simply is that's that's to people today. That's puppy love, and that's like for first graders. You see, and so what's what's taking place is that kids now at a younger age want to have sex because that's all they talk about. It's not only in their families, it's on television and it's around them with kids at a very young age. They're not even ready for it in any way. And I remember this was in high school, 12th year, 12th grade. And I was in a class. This is the way people think. And I knew this, but this was the way people think. So I took a girl out and they knew about it. And the comments when I got back on a Monday in class were, well, did you get some? Did you get some? What the hell are you talking about? Get some. I kissed her. No, 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 no. No, did you get laid? No. Why should I get laid with her? I don't even know her. I know of her and know something about her, but that's the mentality. That was when I graduated high school. That was in 1978. So that was the attitude at that time was, you know, you need to get laid. That's what you're there for. You're to use the woman. You're there to use her to get what you want. What a bunch of nuts. What I mean, how sick can you be? And so my thinking has always been is in this area simply is because I came from a strict family, Christian family, and I understood simply is that no, no, I'm not doing this because I'm not in love with her. No. Am I ready to have a family? Sit down and have a family? What if she gets pregnant? So you're gonna what are you gonna do then? There's fear. Of course there's fear. But it's also simply is that, you know, you don't get in bed with someone just because you want to get laid. And this is the mental attitude of men. It's simply, oh, chalk one up more for me. I got laid I got laid last week, and I got laid this week. So I got, it's like the war heroes when they have this, especially with the aircraft, their bombs hitting someone or destroying some other competitor that not competitor, but actually the enemy. They would show a kill, and that's how men think about this in some ways. It's like a kill. It's like, oh, they put a notch in my belt here that I've, done what I wanted to do and got what I wanted. And them simply is not being there, not being present whatsoever. So anyway, I probably need to end this program. I got to cut off on different tangents. But the important part is simply is to, just we got to grow up, folks. That's what this time period is about. It's time for us to grow up, especially us men and women need to grow up, and how we treat one another and honor one another. Because we don't do that, um, we're setting not only a bad example, but we're not growing up ourselves. A little bit off economics, but it ties in, because the reality simply is that if you truly love someone, you wouldn't do these things to them. You just don't. You got to understand simply is it takes two to tango, and it takes two to actually make something happen. But if you're one doing your own thing and being selfish and trying to just impress yourself, you'll always be that way. So, okay, we'll say thank you for listening. And if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. You take care.